Don't let your dream cruise turn into a nightmare. Welcome back, dear. Imagine this. You've been counting down for months. Vacation approved, bags packed, and you finally step aboard your cruise ship. The ocean air hits your face, the photos look amazing, but by day 2, reality sets in. The food? Meh. The service? Spotty. The atmosphere? Chaotic, loud, or worse, just plain boring. You start asking yourself, did I book the wrong cruise line? And the truth is, maybe you did. Because not all cruise lines are created equal. Some sell the fantasy of a floating paradise, but deliver an underwhelming, overpriced mess at sea. And others? They quietly get it just right, with incredible service, consistent quality, and experiences worth every penny. In this video, we're exposing the 7 worst cruise lines of 2026, based on real traveler reviews, thousands of onboard reports, and first-hand accounts from cruisers around the world. These aren't just lines that had a bad day. These are cruise brands that in 2026 consistently miss the mark on what travelers actually care about: food, service, vibe, value, and the overall guest experience. But don't worry, this isn't just a roast session. Because after we go through the worst of the worst, I'm also revealing the 2 cruise lines you should actually book this year. These are the ones still delivering unforgettable experiences despite industry shakeups, shifting priorities, and rising prices. And yes, some of these rankings might surprise even veteran cruisers. If you've ever been disappointed by a cruise, felt overwhelmed by the endless choices, or just want to avoid wasting thousands of dollars on a floating regret, this video is your new best friend. We're diving into everything, from inconsistent service, tired ships, and chaotic vibes, to hidden fees, food fails, and cruises that just feel like a cash grab. Because the real key to a perfect cruise isn't just chasing deals. It's knowing what kind of traveler you are, and choosing the cruise line that actually matches your style. So which lines are overrated in 2026? Which ones still have loyal fans despite glaring flaws? And which 2 cruise lines still rise above the rest? Let's get into it. Once the king of casual fun, now a cruise line that's starting to show its age. Carnival has always been about maximum energy, minimum cost. Think loud music, poolside burgers, dance parties at noon, and karaoke at midnight. For decades, it built a fiercely loyal following with its come-as-you-are attitude and budget-friendly fares. But in 2026, that magic? It's fading fast. Carnival is stuck in a strange middle ground. It's trying to modernize with new ships and updated menus, but many of its older vessels still dominate the fleet, and they feel it. Think outdated decor, aging infrastructure, and a vibe that feels more frat party nostalgia than refreshing escape. Worse, the onboard experience has become wildly inconsistent. One sailing might have friendly staff and solid food. The next, lukewarm meals, slow service, and a cruise director who looks like they've lost their voice and their will to hype. Entertainment is still big and bold, but often unpolished. Comedy clubs vary in quality. Shows can feel recycled. And the party vibe? It can go from fun to chaotic, especially on shorter itineraries. Then there's the crowd. Carnival is known for being accessible, but that also means sailings can feel overwhelming. Packed pool decks, loud hallways, and a general sense of anything goes that doesn't appeal to every traveler, especially those looking for relaxation or refinement. Now, to be fair, Carnival still nails it for certain people. If you're a group of friends looking for a cheap party at sea, or a family trying to keep kids entertained on a budget, Carnival delivers. And new ships like Mardi Gras or Celebration show what the line can be when it's at its best. But the gap between Carnival's best and worst ships is massive, and that inconsistency earns it a spot on this list. In 2026, Carnival feels like the cruise line that hasn't quite evolved with its audience. It's still fun, but it's also fatiguing. And unless you know exactly what you're booking, it's easy to step aboard expecting carefree energy and walk away wishing you'd chosen something calmer or classier. A line that dazzles at first glance, but struggles to deliver beneath the surface. MSC is known for stunning ships, We're talking crystal staircases, sleek design, and lobbies that feel more luxury hotel than mass market cruise. When you first step on board, it's easy to think, this is going to be next level. But give it a day, and the cracks begin to show. For starters, consistency is MSC's Achilles heel. One moment you're being treated to a gourmet meal with stunning ocean views. The next, you're waiting 40 minutes for cold pasta in a chaotic dining room. Reviews in 2026 still point to the same core issue. Service and quality vary dramatically, not just between ships, but within the same cruise. Part of the challenge? MSC is a global brand. Most of its staff juggle multiple languages and international expectations. That can lead to communication gaps, missed requests, and service that feels distant instead of personal. And while the ships are undeniably gorgeous, style doesn't always equal substance. Entertainment ranges from surprisingly good to was that even rehearsed? The daily schedule can be confusing, and activities that run smoothly on other lines often feel disorganized or underwhelming here. The pricing, though, is attractive. MSC often undercuts the competition with low fares, free drink promos, and kids' sale-free deals. But like the old saying goes, you get what you pay for. Budget travelers are lured in by the glitz, only to be surprised by the unpredictable reality once on board. Now, there is one exception, MSC's Yacht Club. This is their luxury ship-within-a-ship experience, with private decks, butlers, and priority everything. Inside Yacht Club, it's an entirely different cruise. But outside of it, you're back to the cost-cutting, chaotic version. MSC isn't hopeless. It's improving slowly, especially on US-focused ships. But in 2026, the experience still feels like a gamble. For some, it's an affordable taste of luxury. For others, it's a frustrating mess of missed potential. So if you're someone who values predictable service, organized activities, and great food across the board, MSC might leave you wondering if the glamour was just a trick of the lights. A line that feels like a confusing mix of potential, culture, and chaos. Costa is Italy's answer to mainstream cruising. It's bold, stylish, and full of personality. The ships look great, sleek exteriors, colorful interiors, and a distinctly European flair. On paper, it sounds like a cultural adventure. A cruise where every meal feels like Italy and every evening show comes with espresso energy. But in reality, Costa often feels like a cruise line lost in translation. The biggest challenge, Costa tries to serve too many audiences at once. A typical Costa sailing blends guests from Italy, Spain, Germany, France, the UK, and sometimes the US. That diversity is exciting, but it creates a confusing onboard experience. Announcements are made in 5 or 6 languages. Entertainment is tailored to the broadest possible denominator. And the result? Everything feels watered down, rushed, or scattered. Service is another sore spot. European cruise expectations differ from American ones, and Costa doesn't always bridge that gap. What's considered normal service in Italy can feel cold or inattentive to North American travelers used to smiles and small talk. Guests often report long lines, disorganized excursions, and communication gaps that leave them guessing instead of relaxing. The food, sadly, is also a letdown. You'd expect an Italian cruise line to nail the dining experience, but reports say otherwise. Dining rooms feel crowded, menus get repetitive, and unless you pay extra for specialty venues, you might find yourself wondering how spaghetti could go so wrong so often. Costa also has a party vibe, especially on Mediterranean sailings. That works for some, but for others, the loud music, cigarette smoke, and late-night chaos can quickly overwhelm. Peaceful sea days are rare, and if you're someone who values structure or quiet ambience, this won't be your ideal match. Now, if you're a budget traveler who speaks a few languages and craves a multicultural cruise through Europe, Costa might still appeal to you. But for most cruisers in 2026, especially first-timers, it's a confusing, inconsistent experience. Costa wants to be a global player, but right now, it feels like a cruise line that's trying to be everything for everyone. and struggling to truly satisfy anyone. A name you might not have heard in a while, and honestly, that's part of the problem. After shutting down operations during the pandemic, Pullmantur made headlines with a promised comeback. New branding, refreshed ships, and a focus on value-driven cruising for Spanish-speaking markets. On paper, it sounded like a hopeful return, a regional favorite rebooted for a new era. But in 2026, that comeback, it hasn't landed. The truth is, Pullmantur's return has felt rushed. The ships being used are still mostly recycled Royal Caribbean vessels from the early 2000s. They've received cosmetic upgrades, new paint, updated signage, but beneath the surface, you're still stepping into an older, outdated experience. The onboard atmosphere tries to blend affordability with festive flair, but ends up feeling bare bones and uneven. Food is mediocre at best, with buffet lines that feel more like school cafeterias than European escapes. Service varies wildly. Some guests report friendly, hardworking staff, while others feel forgotten entirely. Then there's the lack of polish. Entertainment is limited, with low-budget shows that feel more like a local talent night than professional performances. Pool areas are often overcrowded, and excursions are hit or miss in terms of organization. Pullmantur targets the Spanish-speaking cruise market, which is absolutely valid, but it has yet to modernize its product enough to stand out from competitors like MSC or even Costa. For non-Spanish speakers, communication is tough, and very few onboard materials are translated. That's not a flaw, it's the model, but it means the cruise has a narrow appeal. And pricing? It's cheap. Pullmantur is one of the most affordable options in Europe. But that affordability often reflects the actual experience. Cut corners, old hardware, and inconsistent service. If you're a Spanish-speaking traveler who just wants an inexpensive week at sea with no frills and plenty of sun, Pullmantur might work. But for most cruisers looking for modern amenities, quality food, and a well-rounded experience, it's a letdown. The sad truth? Pullmantur's comeback could have been a great underdog story. But in 2026, it feels more like a reboot no one asked for, and few will remember. Formerly known as Bahamas Paradise, and now rebranded as Margaritaville at Sea, this line markets itself as a quick, affordable escape. A two-night cruise from Florida to the Bahamas that promises fun, music, and island vibes inspired by Jimmy Buffett's laid-back brand. Sounds great, right? But here's the thing. This is less of a cruise and more of a floating motel with a souvenir shop. Let's start with the ship. In 2026, Margaritaville at Sea still operates just one main vessel, the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, a ship that originally launched in the early 90s. Despite a colorful paint job and some Buffett-themed decor, the bones are old. Cabins are dated, hallways feel tired, and the entire vibe leans more budget ferry than vacation escape. The cruise is only 2 nights, which sounds perfect for a quick getaway. But that short window means the ship runs almost nonstop. There's little time for deep cleaning, restocking, or staff recovery between sailings, which translates into spotty service and cleanliness complaints. Food, it's edible, but expectations need to be low. Buffet items are basic, and the dining rooms often feel overwhelmed. Specialty venues exist, but the experience rarely matches the price tag. Entertainment is minimal. Some themed events, karaoke, and a few shows that feel more cruise talent night than headline-worthy. This cruise line survives on last-minute deals, locals looking for a quick fix, and curious travelers wanting something cheap and different. And yes, if all you want is a few drinks, a tan, and a passport stamp, it technically gets the job done. But don't mistake it for a full cruise experience. There are no expansive decks, no immersive itineraries, and no real sense of escape. It's a floating pit stop, not a destination. Margaritaville at Sea isn't trying to be Royal Caribbean, but in 2026, it still struggles to justify even its modest price tag when the experience feels like a novelty, not a vacation. If you book it, manage your expectations. It's not the worst trip you'll ever take, but calling it a cruise might be pushing it. A line that offers incredible cultural promise, but struggles with execution at nearly every turn. On the surface, Celestyal is a dream for travelers who want to explore the Greek islands and Eastern Mediterranean without the mega-ship crowds. Smaller vessels, port-intensive itineraries, a chance to dive deep into culture, cuisine, and history. But in 2026, the experience on board doesn't match the potential. Let's start with the ships. Celestyal operates a tiny fleet, mostly made up of older vessels that have been passed around from other cruise lines for decades. Refurbishments have helped with cosmetics, but these ships are aging inside and out. Cabins are tight, air conditioning is hit or miss, and public areas often feel cramped and outdated. Food is another sore spot. While Celestyal advertises fresh Mediterranean cuisine, the actual meals tend to fall flat, bland, repetitive, and often lukewarm. And because the ships are smaller, you have fewer dining options, especially if you're hoping for variety or a quiet meal away from the crowd. Service? It's inconsistent. Some crew members are kind and genuinely trying their best. Others seem overwhelmed, especially on busy itineraries. Language barriers can make small issues feel bigger, and communication about activities or excursions is often unclear or last minute. Entertainment is light. A handful of cultural performances and theme nights, but don't expect Broadway shows or high-energy productions. That's not Celestyal's vibe, and that's fine. But the trade-off is that there's very little to do on board, especially during longer sea days. Where Celestyal does shine is in its ports of call. You'll visit islands and destinations that bigger ships can't access. It's a more intimate, off-the-beaten-path itinerary, and that part genuinely delivers. But everything between those ports? That's where the experience breaks down. Celestyal often markets itself as authentic, but that word doesn't excuse poor logistics, limited amenities, or dated ships. Authentic doesn't mean uncomfortable. In 2026, Celestyal is aligned with its heart in the right place, but it needs major reinvestment, clearer operations, and an overhaul in both service and infrastructure to compete. It's a cruise for the adventurous, yes, but often for the wrong reasons. World Voyages launched with a bold promise, a luxury cruise experience dedicated to health, fitness, and personal transformation. No casinos, no buffets, just yoga, spa treatments, organic food, and a community of wellness-minded travelers at sea. It sounded like a dream, a boutique cruise line for a new kind of traveler. But here's the reality in 2026. The dream still hasn't fully materialized. After years of delays, shifting launch dates, and vague updates, Blue World finally set sail with a heavily repurposed ship, one that felt far more old spa resort than luxury vessel. The spaces were cramped, the design uninspired, and the promised onboard experience extremely underwhelming. The brand talks a big game about wellness, but guests reported basic workout spaces, lackluster spa services, and healthy cuisine that was anything but inspiring. Think boiled vegetables, mystery smoothies, and menus that lacked both variety and flavor. And while silence and serenity are part of the wellness pitch, the atmosphere on board was often just awkward. Small groups, minimal programming, and an eerie quiet that didn't feel peaceful. It felt unfinished. The worst part? Pricing. Blue World positions itself as a luxury product, but the experience doesn't come close. Guests are paying premium fares for a cruise that feels like a half-finished concept. There's little to do on board. Staff feel untrained. Activities are sparse. And the vibe? Confused at best. This wasn't just a case of missed expectations. It was a total identity crisis at sea. Was this a cruise? A fitness retreat? A floating timeshare? Even past passengers weren't sure. And to make matters worse, Blue World continues to push lofty promises about expansion and future offerings, despite ongoing complaints, refund issues, and operations that feel shaky at best. In 2026, Blue World Voyages tops this list not because it's the most chaotic or the cheapest, but because it promised something extraordinary and delivered something half-built, overpriced, and forgettable. If you're curious, wait. Watch. Let them figure it out. Because right now, Blue World is less transformative experience and more cautionary tale. Their Edge-class ships, like the Celebrity Edge, Apex, and beyond, are floating works of art. Think sleek design, rooftop gardens, and lounges that feel more like high-end hotels than cruise interiors. The vibe is elegant without being stuffy. You won't find water slides or roller coasters here, but you will find creative spaces, live jazz, wine tastings, and spa experiences that feel curated and calm. The food? Genuinely impressive. Multiple included restaurants, each with their own ambience and menu. And if you're into specialty dining, places like Le Petit Chef and Fine Cut Steakhouse are some of the best at sea. No exaggeration. Where Celebrity really shines is the service and consistency. From embarkation to cabin care, staff are polished, friendly, and professional. You get the sense that everything is intentional, that someone thought about the details because they did. It's not just a good cruise. It's a cruise that feels refined, relaxing, and beautifully put together. For adult travelers, foodies, couples, and anyone who values great service without over-the-top gimmicks, Celebrity is where luxury meets comfort. Virgin did what no other cruise line dared to do: reinvent the entire experience. No kids, no buffets, no formal nights, no hard-sell drink packages. Just an adults-only, all-included, highly designed cruise that feels more like a luxury resort than a traditional ship. Food. Every restaurant is included, no upcharges. From Korean barbecue to vegan tasting menus to late-night pizza, the dining options are bold, fresh, and wildly better than most cruise fare. Entertainment? Expect immersive theater, drag shows, pop-up performances, and DJs under the stars. There's a creative edge to everything Virgin does, like it was designed for travelers who hate traditional cruising. And yet, for all its rebellious energy, the service is outstanding. Crew members are casual but attentive. Interactions feel personal and unscripted in a good way. Cabins are smartly designed. Technology works. Wi-Fi is included. And the overall vibe? Relaxed, playful, and upscale without being pretentious. In 2026, Virgin Voyages isn't just for young travelers or cool people. It's for anyone who wants to feel seen, taken care of, and surprised in the best possible way. Both Celebrity and Virgin know exactly who they are. They don't try to please everyone. They please you if you're their ideal guest. And that's the secret. They don't just get cruising right in 2026. They redefine what cruising can be. So what does all this mean? The truth is, there's no perfect cruise line, just the perfect one for you. Some lines shine for families, others for foodies, adventurers, introverts, or party people. The biggest mistake you can make isn't booking a bad cruise. It's booking one that doesn't match your vibe. In 2026, consistency is everything. The cruise lines we ranked at the bottom, most fail because they can't deliver a reliable experience. The ones at the top, they succeed because they know their audience, and they build every moment around what that traveler actually wants. So before you book, ask yourself, do I want energy or peace? Am I here for luxury or value? Do I want non-stop activities or quiet sunsets with a glass of wine? Once you know that, your perfect cruise line becomes obvious. And if this video helped you see things differently, like, comment, and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Drop a comment. Which cruise line have you had the best or worst experience with? And if you're still deciding, the next video on screen will help you compare even deeper. See you on board, guys.